Just your views on the markets today. Like I said, the bears are out to play, and that's really been the story for the summer for Nigeria.
Yes, Lerato, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. We've continued to see bearish trend in the Nigerian stock exchange, and I don't even think it's just a Nigerian issue, it's a global phenomenon. I think generally there's just lack of investor confidence in equities right now as a result of the macro issues affecting the outlook for be it global GDP or national issues, whether you're talking about the rising unemployment in the US, the continued Eurozone debt crisis. Even earlier in the week, Italy was downgraded. So I think just generally there are just shocks happening globally. And in Nigeria, we also have issues with insecurity and even in terms of reforms that the government is putting forward in the area of banking, agriculture. I think the policies are there, but in terms of implementation, the market and stakeholders would like to see much more efforts put into it to show the seriousness of the government. So just generally there's low confidence, and that's what's responsible for the performance.
What should help to restore some confidence is the recapitalization of rescued banks after the deadline of September 30th, largely because the banks account for a huge component of the NSC. We're now told that many of the merged banks are going into extraordinary general meetings with shareholders to discuss the process of recapitalization. But there are also reports that AMCON's come in with a preemptive strike of injecting about 800 billion naira into the system for banks that don't recapitalize. Is that going to help?
Yes, I think it will help. Most of the banks held investors forum this week, and next week they will be having their extraordinary general meeting to ensure that they comply with the 30th September deadline. Obviously, AMCON needs to make additional injection to shore up their liquidity requirements as well as capital adequacy ratios. We think that all of this is positive for the market. We really can't wait to get all of this banking sector reform to a reasonable conclusion, because it's been a long and painful process.
And Jide, also in terms of confidence, we have seen though some interest in fixed income assets, and the bond markets have been a little bit more prolific. Now that we're hearing of WAPCO Lafarge and their proposed bond issuance of about 50 billion naira, will it perform in the current state of the market?
I think generally investors are getting more and more, they're moving more and more of their assets into fixed income. And that's why we see that despite the hike in the MPR of about 125 basis points over the last 3 months, there hasn't really been much movement in the rates, in the yields across the curve, because the market has been awash with liquidity and even additional funds coming in from AMCON as well. With respect to WAPCO's bond, I think the challenge they may have would have to do with the timing, because typically it would have been appropriate to come in at a time where yields are much lower, so they can take advantage of those low yields and lock in for a longer period of time. But right now, with the recent hike in MPR and expectation of increase in yields, I think they might have some challenges, because investors will certainly demand higher yields from them, which may not fully augur well for their refinancing expectations.